Hi, it's Kim from the Shamrock Quilt Studio. We're wrapping up our project on stained glass. You can see it there. So join me and we're going to get started talking about how I finished this project and what my plans are now for it. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Okay, welcome back. And today we're talking about the finished project stained glass. We've been working on this for a little while, a lot faster than I thought we were going to get through it. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how it finished up, what the changes I made since the last time we visited, and then talk about the project. Now, probably the first thing you notice is it's on a gray background, not on the white background we started with. And let me tell you a little bit about why. First of all, that fabric, that white fabric along the outside of this design was really stark. And it was so bright that I felt like it took away from it. It took all the vibrancy of the color and just diminished it because your eye was focusing on that white fabric. So what I did was I stitched along the edge of the pattern or the design on that white fabric about 1/4 of an inch away from the final stitching here of this purple fabric. And then I stitched again about 1/2 an inch outward from that. And then I cut all of that fabric off right on the outside of the second stitch. So I had just 1/2 an inch beyond the purple when I trimmed it. And then I cut a piece of gray fabric, and this was something I already had from another project, into a square and centered the design on the square. And how do you center? Well, let me tell you how I center. First of all, I make sure my fabric is square. And then I fold it in half diagonally. Sometimes I do it horizontally, but usually I do it diagonally. And that allows me also to check and make sure it's square. And then I put a little crease in here. And then I match up, especially with this design, it's really easy because you've got elements here that you can match up with those diagonal lines. So that keeps you on track to show that it is positioned correctly, and it's also in the center, because when you start matching these up on two sides of the plane, you're going to get it in the center. So at that point then I stitched it on to the back by stitching there in between those two lines I had already sewn. So there was a good little bit of machine stitching, but it's just basic machine stitching, nothing fancy. You're just wanting to hold it into place. After that was ready and I was happy with the contrast between the gray fabric and the colored fabric, then I started making my bias tape to do this. And I did finally decide on a 1-inch bias tape. And I used my bias tape maker. Let's see if I'm really lucky and I can put my hand on it. I think this is it right here. So I was able to cut bias strips of fabric 2 inches wide and put it through here and create a 1-inch strip of bias tape. Now, I will tell you that it required some manipulation because these tape makers, when they get this big, they're so big here in the mouth of where it's coming out that sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate with you. It's like the fabric, instead of being a crisp fold, is a round fold, and then it's trying to get it ironed so it will stay in place. Finally got it to work. It took a little manipulation, but it worked. And I did, because I was using that small piece of black fabric, I did have to make some seams, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But once I got that tape made, then I started on the inside and pinning it along just so that it would cover that line of stitching on the purple, where we're hooking the purple onto the background. So that allowed me to get that in place, and then from there, once that was all pinned, then I pulled it out and pinned the outside. Things I wish I had done differently. I wish I had used a single strip of bias tape for this outside binding. And the reason for that is where the seams are joined here is good. Where the seam is joined here is pretty good. But the seam here and the seam here, you can tell that where that's folded over at the outside, it stretched a little bit more. So the line here kind of takes a little dip and comes down here as opposed to maybe here or here. And you can really see it here. If the perfectionist in my personality took over, I would probably take it out and redo it. But let's be honest, who has time for that? If I were going to put it in a show, I would definitely do it. However, if I had been putting it in a show, I probably would have approached it in a different way and been much more careful with every stitch I made in the project. This was a project for our channel to show how something could be done, and a beautiful thing to look at. And beyond that, I'm going to put that perfectionist away and just enjoy the beauty of it. I think it's great. I think in one of the other shows, I said if I were going to do it again, I would make it a little bigger, and I do stand by that. I think it would be even more beautiful, larger. I have started looking at other designs to think of a new project that we could work on that was the stained glass technique, because it really was very fun. It uses very little fabric. I still have a lot of the fabric left over that I purchased. You know, I got a little bundle for this and then just added a couple extra pieces. I still have a lot of that left over. So if we found another design that used some of the same colors, we'd be ready to go. And I love that about a project where you can use something you already have. But it did turn out really nice. I'm very happy with it. Now, right now, I have just turned over a little 1/4 inch hem. It's a finished hem, but it's just a plain little hem on the outside of it and pinned it up here. I haven't decided if I'm going to quilt this or not. I really like the look and the texture of it not quilted. It's kind of like, I was listening last night to someone who was making quilts on YouTube, and they said that they don't wash their quilts, that they don't wash their fabric ahead of time, they don't wash their fabric after they're done, they just don't wash them. Now, I'm trying to understand that a little bit, but let's take them at their word. They don't wash them. They don't wash them because they like that crisp look of it. They're really into starch, and they like that crisp look. For this particular project, I agree. I don't know whether quilting is the way to go on this or not. It would be nice if we could put it on a batting that was kind of stiff and would lay flat, and maybe just quilted on the outside. But you and I both know that if we start quilting this and we don't quilt this, then we have problems with this being puckery. So I don't think that's going to work. So right now, I'm happy with this. I don't know where it's going from here as far as whether I'm going to make any modifications or changes to it, or if I'm going to do anything different with it. I think for now, like I said, I'm happy with the way it looks, and I'm happy to have it hanging in my studio to show something very bright and cheerful up there for the next month or so. And maybe by then we'll have another project we can put up with. maybe by then we'll have another project that we can hang up there. That's beautiful to look at. A lot of times when you're looking at something up here, it's probably the last project we've worked on or something similar to the project we're doing at the time. So you're going to see those switch out. So I am very happy with this project, how it turned out. It turned out to be much easier and quicker than I thought it would be, because when we first started, I wasn't really sure how this was going to go. But it has done very well, and I'm very pleased with it. And like I said, I'm looking for another pattern that maybe sometime during the year we can do that as well. I hope you've enjoyed it too. I've gotten some good comments about this, and it was a great learning experience for me, and I hope for you too. If you've enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We're always looking for new viewers, so please share this with your friends if you know somebody who might be interested in this particular project or some of the others. Remember, all the videos are out there under the playlist, so you can go back at any time and look at them. We're happy you came today, and we will see you next time at the Shamrock Quilt Studio.